I don't know too many women who don't love to get flowers, especially roses. It's not just the beauty and fragrance, but what it represents, the love. Today I'm joined by two roses, so to speak, one from Canada and one from Rwanda. How their stories intersect is, well, miraculous. Chantal Merizzi is the founder of Rose of Dignity, a ministry that reaches out to the world's most broken women. Patricia Mukundiyukuri is a former prostitute whose life was changed forever by a rose. Welcome, ladies. So wonderful to have you. Chantal, you have been here before sharing your story.
Yes.
And it's such an incredible story of how you came to start Rose of Dignity. And I know we don't have a lot of time to talk about that, but just give us the idea of what is behind Rose of Dignity.
Well, I've always had a heart for broken women. God just really led me to that in different ways. Ended up in China, was going to be working there, then ended up in Rwanda for a wedding. Very innocently, a project fell on my head.
What was that project?
Well, I met ladies that were on the street and they were there because they were hungry. That's the first time I encountered that. And I wasn't too sure what to do with that, but I knew that we could feed them, you know. So coming back to Canada, I couldn't just go back to China and do what I was going to do, you know. So I was just praying, Lord, if you want me to go back, you're going to have to open doors. And everything started to happen. And then we were able to go back and we started the project. We took 10 women in. We helped others as well. We gave them an education. We put their children in school. We sheltered them. We fed them. We did everything, even medically, whatever they needed. And towards the end of the 3 years of the project, we taught them how to do some sewing, and then we gave them sewing machines and money to start their lives again for like a month and a half or so.
Right. But what about the idea of the rose? That's kind of an unexpected thing.
Well, my strategy is no strategy. I don't go on the street to do stuff and to say things. I go on the street and I just want to be obedient to the Holy Spirit with that, whatever that may mean. And to one, it will be a song, and to another, it will be a word, and to another, I will just stand and pray silently. But somewhere along the way, throughout all of those stories, roses started appearing and appearing and appearing, and then they just always were there.
What do you mean?
Well, I'm standing on a corner and I'm speaking with this lady, I'm getting through to her, and then I'm leaving and there's a lady selling roses. I'm in China standing on a corner of a street and I'm crying with these women in prostitution. I'm just standing there praying for them, not able to speak to them or anything, and a little girl comes and sells roses. Just different things like that. They appear when I need them.
Right, and you give them to these women.
That's right. It happened very innocently on my part. It wasn't something that I thought up of, but I bought that rose in China the very first time, and I was holding it for a long time, almost asking it, what can you say that I cannot say? And it spoke of restoration, dignity, everything like the broken little girl inside of a broken woman.
Right.
And it's like God was showing me into their lives why they ended up where they're at. And this rose would touch that chord in their lives. And that it just began to flow that way. And then in Rwanda, I was at a wedding. I went to the Novotel to get some pastries. It was closed. I got out of there, took the cab, saw a lady prostituting herself on the street, went back. I just felt the Lord saying, go back to give her a rose. I didn't have a rose.
And getting a rose in Rwanda, I mean, you don't just have flower shops everywhere.
And not only that, but it was Thursday night at 10 p.m. And I did get my rose, and I went back and gave my rose.
And that rose went to Patricia.
That's right.
Who joins us here. Patricia, welcome to Canada. This is your first trip. It is a miraculous story of how you not just got to Canada, but how you got out of a life of being on the streets. Can you just tell us a little bit of how you got there in the first place?
The reason why I went on the street, my uncle raped me, and I had a child, and he actually put me out, and that's how I ended up on the streets.
That is such a betrayal. What happened when you got onto the streets?
Kujya ku muhanda nari maze kubyara na bundi buzima nari mfite, nago nabashaka kujya gukora kuko nari mfite umwana, nabashaka kuma akazi kubera ko nari mfite umwana.
I ended up being on the streets because I had a child and I didn't have any other means of survival, and I had to kind of be there, and I went there. I went on the streets.
Right. You had no chance to go to school or any education to fall back on, and so that was the life. What happens to you when you meet Chantal?
yansanze ku muhanda amereza ururabo rw'iroza.
She gave me a rose when she found me on the streets.
What did you think of that?
Je yampaye ururabo rw'iroza ndavuga ni aho kugira ngo ampe amafaranga aramu ururabo rw'iroza.
I thought to myself, oh, instead of giving money, she's giving me a rose. I was in shock.
Had you ever received a rose before?
Nabonaga indabo ariko sinari nzi ko ari roza.
I used to have flowers, but I never received a rose.
Right. So what did Chantal say to you?
Yarambwiye ntago numvaga, yaramfasha njyana ku musikirite, arambwira ngo ni roza kugira ngo bashe guhinduka ubuzima bwawe. Arambwira rero wabasha kuva mu muhanda.
She gave me a rose and she took me to a security guard, and when we got there for translation, the security guard was translating to me that she was saying, oh, are you able to get off the street? And then I was just looking at her.
Yeah. Chantal, pick up the story where we left off. What did you want to communicate to Patricia?
Well, first of all, I wanted to give her a rose for restoration of her dignity. But then I also wanted to know why prostitution existed in Rwanda, and through our own inability, and then the ability with the person who translated for us, she conveyed to me that it was because of hunger. So I asked her if she was hungry, and she was. So we were going to the restaurant, but then we picked up the whole street on our way, and that's where the project started.
Right, and so you have this feast together. And did you think that's it, or did you think this is something bigger than what I'm doing right now?
Well, I wasn't sure, because things like that have happened in the past, but just not that big and not in Rwanda. You know, I was there for a wedding, but I also knew there had to be a reason why God sent me to a wedding. You know, so I was thinking, well, wait a minute, this is possibly something bigger than what it really is.
Chantal, how did Patricia get off the streets finally?
Well, we took them in. I mean, I was there for the wedding, and then I went back in December after being on 100 Huntley Street. And we started having a little bit of money, and we took the girls who had the worst situations in, and eventually took them all in into homes that we were renting. And then she came, but she became basically my assistant, and God gave us a specific language. She became my translator. Like, right. She doesn't speak French or English, and I don't speak Kinyarwanda, but somehow we mix it all in, and we understand each other.
Right, you became family.
Yeah.